Hi, this is Lori from the Pink Girly channel. Welcome. And I'm just doing hopefully a quick tutorial for you. I have created several of these, what I'm calling a pocket storage journal. And I just take a large envelope and create some kind of background on them. And sometimes I leave the envelope flap on, sometimes I cut it off. And then I use the pockets for storage, whether it be stencils, ephemera, could be greeting cards. Now this one I did a pamphlet stitch with the same fabric that I'm using as my tie. This one I did it a little differently in that I stitched it with some waxed linen and then just added a piece of ribbon on the back and use that for a tie. So today I'm going to show you how I quickly, well, maybe not so quickly, put this together. So to save some time, what I did was I decorated my envelopes, and these were just plain envelopes, 7 by 10, and I put watercolor on my jelly plate and just pressed these on both sides just to get a little something started. You could paint them, you could stamp, you could put tissue, napkin, decorate them however you like. But once you get it how you, and you don't have to decorate them at all. You could just leave them plain. But once you get them the way that you like them, I've got 6 here. What you need to do is cut off the bottom end of the envelope. See? It's the regular envelope. So I've got my paper trimmer here. I hope it fits in this little guy. And I'm just going to take a smidge off of the bottom of most of these. And one I'm going to make a little shorter, just because I want a little variety in this little storage unit. Actually, I should pay closer attention and make them all kind of the same size. So I'm just trimming off a little bit off of the end of the envelope, making sure it's straight. They really don't have to be. My cutter is really not as sharp as it should be, so I'm just going to trim that up a little bit with a pair of scissors. So what I'm doing is basically trying to trim these off all to be the same size. Now, if you have a better paper cutter than I do, you could probably do these all at once. I think this one I want for my, I'm going to put the green one for my center. So these are all basically the same size. This one I'm going to cut a little shorter. So I'm going to see where it's taped at the bottom to make the envelope. I'm going to take that whole section off. And on this one, which is going to be my center, I'm going to take my flap off on this one. So this one's just going to be a little shorter than my other envelopes. So I'm going to take my scraps and just put them aside. There's little skinny ones I don't think I'll use for anything, but I don't know about that flap. So then what I'm going to do is just take my bone folder and I'm going to fold my envelopes in half. And I want a nice crease. And I think I want the seam on the inside, so this one I folded backwards. So I want to be aware of that. It may not matter to you. It really doesn't matter. Now I like to go back in and decorate on these little storage journals. if I have a piece of leftover napkin from a project, or maybe I have some ephemera or some fussy cutting or die cuts, extra paint. Perhaps I have been using a stamp and I've got extra ink. I will just grab one of these and then just add it. It's fun to do that, and I like the way that it looks. Do you have to do that? No. You can just merely use this as a storage tool. But some of us that do this arting thing, and we like to make journals, and we like to create, we hate to waste and throw away paint and things like that. So it's up to you. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to lay the, well, you know what? Yeah, I think I'm going to lay these out the way that I want them. So you have one side of your envelope that has your flap, and then you have the other end where you've cut off the bottom to make a pocket. So I'm going to put my flap end every other. You could take those flaps off and not have any flaps. A lot of personal choice when you do your own art. So I'm just staggering these. And then the one that I cut shorter and took the flap off, I'm going to use that for my middle, the middle of my book. So that's basically going to be it. Now, you can either stitch this on a sewing machine, or you can sew it by hand. You could use a stapler if you have one of those staplers that goes into the center. I'm going to show you to do a pamphlet stitch on this one today. But before I do that, I've pulled out some of my, now I'm going to leave them the order, hopefully, that I have them in. I want to do a little something extra around my envelope here. So I pulled out some of my distress crayons. And you don't need to do this. These are by Ranger. This one is called Seedless Preserves. And I'm just going, because this has some purple in it, I'm going to take this purple crayon and just run that around the edge. And then I'm going to take a baby wipe and just kind of work that into the edge of my paper, the edge of my envelope. Now, when I decorated these, what I did was I used watercolor paint on my jelly plate. It dried pretty quickly and it was not real messy. And I used my Inktense brand watercolors, because then if I want to come back in here and do any kind of mixed media on some of these pages, my color, once they're totally dry, will not move. Now this isn't moving as much as I'd like. My baby wipes might be a little on the dry side, so I'm just adding a little more water. Now you could put ribbon around if you really wanted to. You know, you can do a lot of different stuff, right? Most of you probably watching this video know that. I just feel like doing a little extra here. And I may not do all these pages because I don't want my video to get too terribly long. And I'm trying to use a different recording system. So I'm hoping that this turns out well. But right now, I don't know where I need to look to see how long I've been recording. So hopefully, so that's my first one. So now that page for me is ready to go. So that's going to be my outside cover page. Now on this one, I'm going to choose my Crackling Campfire crayon. This also has some purple. Now I'm just putting this crayon, oops, nope, I don't want that on that side. Let's do some of the purple on this side. I'm just rubbing this crayon very lightly because you may have noticed that if you rub it too hard, those lines don't really come out very well, those scribble lines. Now that may not bother you, but I like for it to blend. Now it's blending a little better, but I did add some additional water to my baby wipe. Now you can use a paintbrush. You can use just a damp finger on these crayons. I'm sure you could take a paintbrush to it. You can scribble some of it onto like a glass palette or a tile. But they're meant so they'll move. That's really what I should tell you, is that they're meant to move. So I will go through and do all of my pages like this. Now, a lot of times when you want to decorate your pages, it's easier to do it before you assemble them together, right? When they're laying flat. This one is called Blueprint Sketch. It's a really nice blue. I tried to color these pages the same on both sides, but that one I didn't get it right. I got a different color on that one. Sometimes I just get a little overly fussy about some stuff like that. So I have 2 of these already, this type of journal. The one I have my stencils in that I use on a regular basis. Now, I have a container, like a 9x12 container, where I have a lot of my stencils, especially the bigger ones. But I also have a loose leaf binder that has smaller things in it. And they're ones that I don't use all the time, say like seasonal, or they may be a themed one. But I really do use like my Tim Holtz alteration stencils fairly regular. And I got tired of pulling down that binder. It's big and cumbersome. It's hard on my arms to pull it. So I was thinking, what could I put my stencils that I use really on a regular basis in something that was easy to grab? And so I came up with this. Now I make little journals, like I'll take 5x7s, and where you have the flap, you can put your envelopes together and make a small journal. But these are a little larger. Let's see. I think I'm going to do the seedless preserve. See, once I get going on this stuff, I don't want to stop. I love doing this stuff. But I probably should have checked my time clock before. It's got to be up on the screen somewhere for me to see more conveniently how long I've been streaming. And because I was working on white paper, it's kind of hard for my camera to focus on the white paper, so I was trying to make this a little viewer friendly. See, now I'm rubbing that paper and it's sucking up the moisture from my baby wipe, so I'm just adding some plain water on it so I can get this crayon. And you can see here I was a little more heavy-handed, and I've got more of a line. So I just have a couple more to do. So I think I'll let that go. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my pages, stack them back together the way that I want them. And I just want to punch holes. I'm just going to do a 3 pamphlet stitch for this little storage book. So I'm lining up my pages. I've got them all in here the way that I want them. All right, then I want to stitch them together. So the thing that's easiest to do, now you can really go crazy. You can measure and measure where you want the holes and space them so many inches apart. You know, however you want to do it. That's just not me. I mean, sometimes I do it that way. Other times, not so much. Now see, I've got a couple here that are a little longer. So I think what I want to do is move those to the outer edge. So I think that'll be a better cover. And it may not matter because, yeah, that looks better. Now I'm just checking my flaps. I want to make sure my flaps are every other. So I think I would like better that way. See how fussy I can get? I like that better. So we don't all have bookbinding equipment, right? So I use a catalog. I have a Uline catalog that I'm going to use. And that's going to be like a book tray or a book trough. I don't even know what they call it. But if you have a catalog that you can get your hands on and you want to do this kind of simple binding, it works really well. Now this one's not that great of a trough anymore because I've used it so much I've kind of broken down the spine. This one's ready for the bin. So then you want to get something you can punch a hole with, some kind of an awl, A-W-L, pokey tool. You probably could even use a skewer, or like I said, if you have a hole puncher that has a long, I guess, neck that you could get it in here, you can do that. A lot of us wouldn't have that kind of thing. And all you want to do is just follow the crease of your book and punch your holes. I'm going to start in the center. And I'm just pushing that right down into the spine of the, I think I need a bigger, because I don't think my needles are going to go through. I'm going to use my awl, because I want to make a bigger hole there. I think you'll probably pick something up at Harbor Freight very inexpensively if maybe you're a single gal and you don't have a lot of tools. And then I'm just going to go to the top. Do the same thing, just punch that down through all layers of my envelope and then down at the bottom. Now there are a lot of videos on YouTube showing you how to pamphlet stitch. And you want to have an odd number. So you either want 3 holes, 5, 7, depending on the size of your pages. Now we can put this catalog aside. Actually, I'm going to put that right in my trash can because that one's really kind of worn out. And then I'm going to grab, I have some cording or jute. You could use wax linen. You could use yarn. You could use cloth. Now this isn't, I'm not going to need a whole lot because, you know, it's just one little section here. So I'm just going to cut off a length. And I chose this mint green because it kind of goes with the different pages that I'm putting together. And then you want to choose some kind of a stitching needle that has a bigger eye so you can get your thread through. Usually I find if I bend it over my needle, I can get it in there, but this is a little on the thick side. I'm going to cut my thread on an angle to see if I can thread it through this. I might need to try to find a bigger eyed. This probably is the fussiest. Oh, I got it. Woohoo! This is probably the hardest part of the whole project. Now, when you go to do this, you need to decide if you want your threads on the inside or on the outside. Outside, inside. I'm going to put mine on the inside because I'm going to tie some cloth back here to then tie around my little storage journal. So what you want to do is you thread your needle with whatever thread you decide to use, and you're going to start on the inside if you want your inside threads to finish up there, and then you're going to leave a little tail, and now your needle is on the outside, so you're going to come back in. It doesn't matter if you go through the top or the bottom one first, that's really not an issue, but you want to just come through, give that a little pull, a little tug. If you have difficulty and you have a pair of pliers, you can pull your needle through. Now you just want to make sure you don't have any loop going on there, any looseness. You want to just make looseness, not looseness. And then you're going to come all the way down to the bottom. Pop that through. Very easy. Very simple. And then you're going to go back through that center hole. Come up through the middle of your book. Now I like to have mine on either side, the thread on either side of my center thread, my two tails. Now you don't want to pull it so tight where you would tear your pages. Now these are durable because they're envelopes, but if you were doing this with regular paper, you want to maybe be a little more gentle than I am. So then you can either tie a bow or not. And I'm just going to loop that around twice. Tie that nice and tight. And then I'm trimming. Take off my clips. I have my journal. And I can store whatever I like in my pockets. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's the shorter one I made. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 pockets. Now I want to be able to tie this shut, and there's a lot of different things you could do, but for me, just something simple. On one of my lives, I was tearing apart a pillowcase, and this was the little edge that I tore off. So all I'm going to do is just thread that under my back threads here. I'm just going to stick that underneath the top part, and then the bottom I'm going to Sneak it under the other one. I'm going to bring these up so they're even. And I'm just going to make a tie. Now, should this book get really full and fat, I can always take this off and replace it with something else. But see, now I've got a piece of fabric on either side. And I can just tie it. And there you have it. That was simple, right? Easy to do. Let me know if you have any questions. And I'd love to know if you make one of these and what you use it for. That would be fun. So you could leave me a comment. So that's it for this video. I will see you next time. And don't forget, take time to be creative and enjoy the journey. Bye-bye.